Warning, take caution, hot takes ahead. It's episode 281 of the Alamo Auto Podcast. UTSA has just suffered a very, very embarrassing double-digit collapse on the road against Temple. This is your host, Jared Kalmus, joined by Adrian Bermudez and Javi Cardenas. And guys, that was just tough to watch, man. I feel very dejected.
Yeah, really tough game, Jared. Just a collapse, a horrendous collapse from the Roadrunners after starting extremely well on offense. Horrendous second half where they just got outplayed again, right? Outplayed, out-hustled, out-spirited, out-grit from Temple. And it's a brutal one to see because it's a program that you should be better than.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not fun to watch right now, right? It's last two games have been tough. I know the defense has been great. We've seen some improvements there, and that's fantastic. But man, it's like pulling teeth right now trying to watch this team go to work on offense, and it's kind of disappointing because we saw two of the better drives, honestly, of the year in that first half, and then to be followed by probably one of the worst performances, second half performances we've ever seen. It's just confusing. It's bewildering. It's makes you question a lot of things, right? So. It's they got to move on, right? This is the beginning part of the season, really, the beginning part of conference. But how do you move on? Technically, everything's still in front of them, but is it really? I don't know.
It's starting to feel like a lost season at this
Which
point.
Is crazy because it's only like
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, it's not though. If you think about it, it's five. We're at the halfway point. We're 5 games into the year. This is the halfway point coming up. Homecoming week against Rice on Saturday. So if you really think about it, it's not that far-fetched to feel like with a sub-500 record, 5 games into the season, the future is bleak for UTSA. And even then, we've had this conversation all throughout the season, but having to take several weeks to turn it on, to not play your best football until November of the football season, it's ridiculous. You're 2/3 through the year. Right? I mean, it's unacceptable for a team that has this much longevity, especially on the coaching staff, to not have guys ready to play. And now we're halfway through the season, so it's really taking too long. And Javi, I think you're spot on. You talk about like the perfect offense that we saw to start this game. It really felt like, I mean, dude, two perfect drives to open it up. McGowan's a perfect 4 for 4 with 43 yards. On the opening drive, goes 75 yards, 76 yards downfield for a touchdown. And Owen, I think, hits like a couple of really nice sideline gems. And then all of a sudden, you have this 11-point halftime lead, and everything changes. Everything changes after K.C. Keeler goes off on the ESPN camera, talking about how embarrassed he is of Temple. And you see this completely different Temple team come out in the second half that is reinvigorated, has this spirit about them that they're not going to be denied. And you just saw the momentum shift. They go on a ridiculous drive downfield to open up the third quarter, where, and I guess you have to give some credit to Evan Simon because he was really nasty throwing the football in the second half.
Back shoulder fade that he threw, it was like 3rd and long, I think 3rd and 11 maybe, and he threw a sideline back shoulder fade. It's like there's nothing you can do with the defense. I mean, if they're going to make that play, they're going to make that play.
You could just tell.
It was a nice drive for them, but it should not have led to them winning the whole game.
Right. It shouldn't have led to a 24-7 second half barrage, right? Getting completely smoked. But it happened in the second. I mean, after 2 or 3 drives, UTSA momentum is shot. I mean, Jared, there's 2 negative yardage offensive drives in the second half for UTSA. One for a 22-yard loss and an 18-yard loss that actually was the 2-minute drill that could have potentially won the game for UTSA. Like, what are we talking about here? This is insanity. This is a collapse that is just unbelievable. And so it's the way that this happened, from playing such good offensive football to playing essentially none in the second half. Like, how does that happen? How on earth does that occur? It's not the first time we've seen this team like get in cruise control this season and kind of put the seat back and just, oh, we're fine. We're in the driver's seat. Don't worry. And all of a sudden, now they're getting their butts kicked in the second half.
I think whatever the message is at halftime, at least these last couple of years, is not getting through to them, right? Whatever it is, It's always been a thing. Honestly, if you pay attention, like the third quarter has always been rough for UTSA historically under Jeff Traylor.
Mhm.
Mhm.
They just have never been a good adjustment team. They've always been able to get away with it, right? Because they've had better players for the most part. But now that these teams in the American have better talent, I just don't think they can get away with it anymore. And these coaching staffs that are able to motivate their guys and maybe move a couple things around scheme wise. It's taken UTSA too long to get adjusted, right? And you can see, right? So Temple starts the second half with touchdowns, and then by the fourth quarter it kind of cools off, right? And they just get that one field goal in the fourth, and then that's
Mhm.
it, really. That's all they have. So what does that tell you, really? It's that their core, whatever they moved around that they saw from UTSA, apart from the K.C. Keeler speech that I'm sure was fiery at best. Um, whatever that is, I don't know what it is, right? Like it's it's the motivate. Is the message gone stale? Is the continuity that Jeff Traylor has kind of relied on backfired? I think you have to start questioning that because whatever it is, it's just not getting through to them.
Yeah, and I think also there's a motivational aspect for sure. I mean, the X's and O's we can get into. If you look at that opening drive from Temple, right, you saw some incredible plays from them. They were highly motivated. The one that sticks out was it was like what, third and goal from the 10, 11 yard line for them or something like that. And they threw it to the Bermudez wide receiver. What, he's 5'9", a buck 70 or something like that, and he is met by two UTSA defenders at the 1 yard line, and he's still able to fight through that contact and get into the end zone for a touchdown. And you got an SEC transfer as one of the guys that makes contact with them. Just shouldn't happen, right? That's just like one guy wanting it more than two guys on the opposing team. And on the X's and O's front, man, this is what really upsets me because UTC has 25 guys on the coaching staff. Remember, Harvey Najim donated $2 million for Jeff Traylor to use to upgrade and bolster his staff? And then every single halftime, they're getting out adjusted. Temple only has 16 coaches on their roster. What is going on, right? Are guys not seeing things? Are there too many cooks in the kitchen? They can't communicate. They're having disagreements. I, I don't know what it is, but it's not a good use of resources to have this many coaches, to spend this much money on the coach's salary, and getting out coached and out adjusted almost every single game. Something's got to change, man. You
I
can't
mean,
tell me having 9 extra coaches than Temple brought more value in the decision and the outcome of that game than just taking that salary money, just putting it into the revenue share for the players.
yeah, I mean, what is it, right? Like, are the other staffs hungrier, right? Or are the is the current coach some complacent? I
One
I would
one
hate to
theory
say
I
that.
have, one theory I have on that is like there's not enough outside perspective being brought in to the program, right? The coaching staff is all guys, not all, but mostly guys who have been with Jeff for a very, very long time. So
Right.
I think they're kind of set in their ways. They're kind of playing within the bounds that they've set for themselves and not being challenged enough to make adjustments, to make changes, and are maybe trying to just increase the repetition to be a little bit more cleaner in the execution versus like, bringing in some new ideas and some new theories. And also, the book is out on UTSA. There's a ton of film on this system now, on these players, on these coaches. Other teams know what to expect.
Yeah, it's funny because Trailer actually talks in the Monday Media Roundtable today and mentions that he did not like the screen pass on a 3rd and 6 that Jared actually talks about in his film breakdown for subscribers. And so he talks about how he didn't agree, and he says that was too predictable, quote unquote. But then later in his press, which by the way is kind of uncharacteristic of him to call out a coach, in that regard, but he does. And then next thing you know, he's asked about if there's been any consideration to change who's calling the plays. Vehemently denies that there's any consideration. That's something that will never happen, not going to happen, isn't even up for discussion. Don't even mention it. So it was interesting to see that sort of polarization with his responses. And he kind of unprompted mentioned that he didn't like that 3rd and 6 call, that it was too predictable. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting during his presser.
Which, by the way, that is the closest that Jeff Traylor will ever get to criticizing anything. Will be, I didn't like this call, or we got away with we got away from something too quickly. Because he's very adamant that he does not call plays, right? Especially obviously on offense. So for him to say that he thinks they did something incorrectly, that's about as close as he's gonna be publicly about criticizing. Uh, I think he mentioned it today in one of his interviews that what we see as like the media and the public and what how he is with his staff and players are like two completely different things. I'm sure behind closed doors, right? He's grilling them, right? Like players, coaches, because he knows, man. Like you cannot invest as much as UTSA invests in their football program and lose to Temple. I'm sorry. I know he tries to tell and say that it's always going to be a one possession game and they're very good and blah 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 blah. All that coach speak, mumbo jumbo. But at the end of the day, man, like UTSA is more talented than Temple. UTSA right at the moment has more resources than Temple. It's a first year coaching staff against a six going on 7 year coaching staff. Like there's no excuse to be outcoached. There's no excuse to be outmotivated. There's no excuse, right? Like we can come up with a bajillion reasons why, but at the end of the day, there's just no reason for them not to be motivated, for them to not be up to par scheme wise. The talent was there. I mean, you saw it on the field. UTSA was better. Like that first quarter, that first half, UTSA should have won by 3 touchdowns, really.
Easily.
But it's the X's and O's, and it's the motivation factor, and it's the want, and it's just a want to, right? They just do not want it as bad as the other teams. I think the Texas State games have been a perfect example of the issues, right? Those Texas State teams this year and last year, they just wanted it more. For whatever reason that might be, right? They just want, you saw it on the field. Like you saw it in San Marcos, you saw it here in San Antonio. Those teams just wanted it more. I feel it's not necessarily that UTSA has a target on their back, but I feel like teams want to bring UTSA and Jeff Traylor down a peg, and they're going to be up for them, right? And for good reason. The UTSA got a lot of hype, and now it's time to bring them down, right? Um, but like you say, Jared, I think the message is it's an echo chamber right now in there, and there's no and they kind of it's the same message over and over and over again that's recycling. I mentioned it in the Patreon chat today, but it's concerning that Jeff Traylor changed his approach to the offseason and it's still the same results. Like what does that tell you, right? What's your common denominator in all of that? It's the people you have in place to relay that message that you changed, right? That's the only common denominator because most of the offense came back. The defense, you get a pass, sure, but there's been improvement there. So okay, a wash, I guess. But the offense is where it should just automatic red flag. How can you have continuity with players coming back and regress as much as they have, execution wise and just play calling wise, right? You hate to blame people, right? But at the end of the day, it's the people that are currently in place that are falling short.
Well, yeah, what's the point of putting such an emphasis on player retention and revenue sharing for all these guys on the offense if they look like they have never played together 6 weeks into the season, right? And then you've got another roster across the field from you with a whole new coaching staff and a bunch of new players in there, and they look more cohesive and more prepared than you do, right? So it begs the question of like maybe going with retention is maybe the wrong strategy because it's not drawing results.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I meant to bring this up earlier whenever we were talking about kind of being out schemed and stuff like that. I want to give a shout out to UTSA Analysis on Twitter. I think he's a podcast listener. UTSA has been outscored 72-104 in the second half this year, which includes a 20-24 outscoring against FCS opponent UIW. It's a systematic problem. Something's got to change in the locker room, especially at half.
You talk about so many coaches on the staff, the old adage, too many cooks in the kitchen, right? And the crazy thing, and Javi sort of alluded to this, is losing to Temple, a team that you're supposed to be better than. Look, a one-possession loss to Texas State, a team that is getting on equal footing, a team that is really, really up and coming and getting better year over year and trending in a really solid coaching staff and good talent on the roster on equal footing with you. You lose that one-possession game, okay. One possession game against Temple should never even be a one possession game in the first place. This is a program that has won 12 games over the last 4 years, not including this season. But if you go back 2021 through 2024, this team is 12-36. It's a 250 winning percentage. It's like it's a program that is levels down from the standard that UTSA has set, right? And the first thing out of Jeff Traylor's mouth on his Monday presser is, this is about what we expected. I'm sorry, what was about what you expected? To lose? To go toe-to-toe with the program that has won 12 of their 48 games in the previous 4 seasons? Going tit for tat with a bottom-tier conference team? You're supposed to walk all over Temple. What do you mean you expected that? You're supposed to be the class of the conference. This is a game that you ought to win handily. And we saw UTSA doing just that for the first 30 minutes. So this whole harping on the one possession thing, it's bogus, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work whenever we've seen the same issues now year over year, not just week over week. But you guys talk about the locker room, the sideline, too many coaches on the staff. And then now, culture, and we start to see like this energy difference, this difference in emotion between UTSA and their opponent, where it does feel like UTSA's opponents are playing sometimes at a different speed than UTSA is. And it's really just, 100% versus 80% of the tank, so to speak. But it's happening so consistently. You've got to start to wonder about, where's the desire for this team? Where's the want for this team? Where's the standard? Because what we saw when K.C. Keeler started talking about he was embarrassed with his program, which, by the way, he's only had it this season. This is his 5th game coaching them. He's embarrassed. He's telling that to an ESPN camera. What that was is a standard, right? And a demand for standard. And Jeff Traylor would never say that, which I'm not saying he needs to, go off on his team in public, but you never see any of that sort of emotion. Maybe we do see it behind closed doors. But the standard, we're not seeing that on field. We're not seeing a standard being upheld, whether it's being vocalized to our cameras or not. K.C. Keeler vocalized that the standard wasn't being met. All of a sudden, dude, after that halftime, there's now a Temple team playing with a standard that they have. We didn't see it. We didn't see it from UTSA.
Just to put some data behind the talent disadvantage, UTSA is 3rd in the conference in the 24/7 talent composite, where they take a look at all of the high school recruiting rankings of every player that's on the roster, whether they came in from the portal or not. UTSA has 1 5-star in high school, 10 4-stars, and 58 3-stars. Temple is rated 12th in the conference, but Army's below them, and they don't really count. They have 0 5-stars, 1 4-star, and 44 3-stars. So that is a massive, massive difference in the roster talent there, especially in the depth. And you would think over 4 quarters that depth would bear out, and the team that has more depth, more talent, that would show up, over the span of 4 quarters. And it was the opposite. I mean, you can just look at all the charts and the metrics of the win expectancy and all of that. As soon as, Keeler went in at halftime and he got with his coaches, made adjustments, and he gave that speech, everything started going their way, right? UTSA was the exact opposite. So I feel bad for the players, honestly. Like Javi said, this should have been a 3-touchdown win, and they were very close to getting a 3-touchdown lead. And they just did not uphold any standard that may or may not be set in that locker room.
1 shoestring tackle, by the way, from that happening, from being up
So
3. But yeah, football, I guess. And Jared, you mentioned it on Twitter, I think. But how do you go from championship 5 or week 1 to, oh yeah, we were supposed to be in a close 1-possession game with Temple, right? That doesn't compute.
Yeah,
that doesn't compute, right? So were you BSing everybody week 1? Because the team that played week 1 is not the same team that's played this week against Temple, right? I understand coach speak and everything, but Jeff needs to realize that people are smarter than he thinks they are, right? They remember what you tell them, and when you tell them oh hey, we're supposed to be in a close game with Temple, they can very easily go to the composite rankings and be like, wait a minute, how's that possible when we are number 3 in the conference in talent?
You can visibly tell when you watch the games that UTSA looks to be in a different weight class than UTSA.
Yeah.
As far as talent goes.
There's so many tools now to back up what you see, right? You can PFF obviously, like if you have a subscription to that, but stuff like that that's free, that's early available, like you can tell, man. Sure, if you go against South Florida, okay, maybe they have like, a couple more 5 stars and 4 stars and all that good stuff. But we're talking about Temple, and I know they're catching some strays here, but that's the reality of where these two programs are as it currently stands, right?
Dude, let's not forget their president had to come out and squash rumors that they were going to move down to FCS this offseason. This offseason.
Well, and then last year when Owen McKenna was like running down the field as he was like giving an interview.
Let's get in.
Yep.
Let's get into it here. And I think Javi kind of alluded to the defense played pretty decent. So I think we should start with the offense and just sort of the complete running out of gas that we saw. Temple converts 40% of their third downs. UTSA only 33%. Owen, start with Owen, right? His 2 interceptions, his 2 turnovers, the Temple's 0 turnovers on the day. It's a second straight game with 2 INTs after having none through the first three games of this season. He is sacked 3 times, but I do think he had better help from his receivers. And it's not like he had a terrible day. 25 for 37, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns. The 2 INTs really hurts. Really, really hurts. And then you mentioned it earlier too, Javi. A terrible day running the football for UTSA. 70 total yards, 2.3 yards per rush. Really bad.
Wow. 2.3. Granted, Owen did take some pretty big sacks that definitely chip away at the rush total.
Good point.
I will say one of the interceptions is probably not Owen's fault. Like that tipped one on the RPO. Like DeAndre Marshall, he has to stick with his block. He has to make sure the defender keeps their hands down. So I would point the finger at him on that one. But Owen was just inconsistent. It was probably his best game of the season, which is paradoxical.
To start,
but man, he missed so many reads. He was really, really, really poor under pressure. Right, a lot of times he was seeing ghost out there. He was throwing the ball too early, but not always. Like that touchdown throw that he had to McEwen, he sat in the pocket, took a hit, threw a perfect flag route right in the back corner of the end zone. Beautiful stuff. But it's just like a Jekyll and Hyde thing with him, and I'm starting to see some mechanical issues as well. His interception that he threw, that was a really bad underthrow. There's an all 22 camera angle on the ESPN Plus broadcast, thank God. And if you look at where his eyes are pointing to where the receiver's at versus where his hips and his feet are pointing, they're way out of line. And that's how you end up not having enough power, generating enough torque through your whole body to push the ball down the field. Because that throw that he made, it was just all arm, and he just does not have a strong enough arm to make that throw. So I hope that the coaching staff sees that on film and they correct it. But it's hard for me to have faith that's going to happen when the quarterback's coach has never played quarterback. I don't even know if he played varsity football in high school. He has no experience. So that is super, super concerning. And that is stuff that's, if it's not fixed, he's not going to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, it's all these little things, man, that before it was not an issue, right? When you win, it hides a lot of things. But now you're like, all these things are like, well, look, that's kind of weird. Well, whatever. They're winning close games, right? Like, now all of a sudden it's coming back up and it's an issue, and why is this and why is that? And now when the team's not performing, right? It's a lot of question marks everywhere.
Yeah, ugly stuff on the offense. Do you think that you can solely blame it on just this, I don't know, momentum shift that occurs in the second half? Do you think that schematically UTSA started doing something wrong, or the fact that they just didn't do anything different? Did Temple start doing something different on defense? What happened to completely nullify the offense that was previously working really well in the first half?
I didn't myself notice anything that seemed glaringly different with what Temple was doing on defense. I think UTSA was shooting themselves in the foot a bit. Missed blocks, missed reads, penalties. Just the typical sloppy play from the UTC offense that's kind of been there for a while. And Temple was able to take advantage of that, right? They grabbed that tip pass and an RPO, and it fell right in the guy's hands. How poor of luck can you have on that? And then the safety made a good play on that underthrown ball. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see an argument that they abandoned the run too fast. Sounds like Robert Henry is having some hydration issues, so he wasn't able to go 100% of the game. But I think for me, it all just boils down to what we've been saying all season long. If you can't take the top off a defense and they don't respect the pass game and they can load the box, there's not a whole lot you can do to be successful. And, you watch a lot of those stuffed runs that UTSA had. Temple had everyone up on the line of scrimmage, man. One safety back and cover one maybe, but those outside linebackers were right up on the line of scrimmage. The inside linebackers were very, very, very close, to the line of scrimmage, and they just go, as soon as the ball snapped. They're not paying any respect to play action. They're not paying any respect to, the dump pass to the tight end. They're not paying any respect to the quarterback rollout. And because UTSA is not doing that stuff, and they can't push the ball downfield and win those one-on-ones downfield on those jump balls. So until that's fixed, I just don't see how they can continue to be successful unless the opposing defense plays poorly.
Yeah, I mean, I think we also need to start having a conversation about why the tight ends aren't as effective as they need to be. I think they had a better game this past week, but when Owen's struggling the way he is, you would think one of those three tight ends is going to be open. Obviously, not all three are going to be out on the field at the same time, but at least two of them, right, for the most part, they're good, man. Like we've seen them be good. Why aren't they not getting open? Why are they not getting schemed open? Um, I don't know, man. It's puzzling sometimes. The decisions the decisions Owen makes, the execution when he does do it, right? It's like, man, why are you throwing that ball when if you waited 2 more seconds there was somebody underneath, or dump it off, or run, right? It's so many times it feels like he takes the third bad option when there's two good ones or two better ones. It's like, oh man, like I understand it, man. I get it, right? When you have a defensive end running at you, it's kind of hard to make a decision on the fly like that. But it should be coached into him to like, okay, the moment this doesn't happen, A, B, and C, D, right? Like, here are your options. Here's where you need to look. And it just feels like he gets fixated sometimes on his first read, and he just kind of sticks with it, and he doesn't even look at a dump off, or he doesn't look at the underneath route, right? Or he doesn't even consider running. I don't know. And I get why they're not running him because they're trying to keep him healthy, and I get it. But at this point, you got to try it, right? Like you don't have a choice. This team needs something, whatever that spark might be. Maybe it's deceptive speed Owen McGowan. I have no idea, but
one thing that was really interesting to me is Temple had a lot of success throwing to their tight ends, and
yeah.
there were a couple plays where they had just a huge mismatch where they had a 6'6" tight end going up against a safety and just jumped on top of him and bodied him.
But it wasn't anything crazy. It was basic scheme, like basic offensive alignment and schemes, man. It was a tight end leaking late, right? It was a tight end blocking and then
seam
getting
route
off his block, seam, right? Like nothing out of the ordinary. Like that UTSA just can't seem to do that with significantly, in my opinion, better tight ends in Temple.
Right, and I think some of it is schematic, but I think some of it is physicality as well, because there have been a lot of plays where the tight end has been matched up against a vastly smaller opponent and was not able to hang on to the football. I want to say the Texas State game, I think there was a fourth down conversion where the guy who broke the pass up to Thomas Overmeyer, whoever it was like 5'9", 190 pounds or something like that. And you're the bigger, stronger man. You got to come down with that. And when Temple was put in that position against UTSA, they were able to do it. And that's what you would expect of them. So I think there's definitely a conversation to be had about why those guys aren't consistently winning those 50-50 balls when they're so big and athletic and talented. All right, what else we got, man? UTSA was missing Jalen Garth out there, that's for sure. DeAndre Marshall had a good game against Colorado State, but I think just the level of pass rush that Temple was able to bring, they had more talent there on the edges. That Stewart guy was really, really solid. He really started to win pretty much every battle in the second half. Rice has got some good pass rushers too, so that's something to watch. I think they might have to put some extra help out there with DeAndre. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, he wasn't like terrible considering the circumstance, but was definitely put in the offense in some tough situations, including that tip pass. For
Jared,
the
do you think that the offensive line's pass protection has regressed over the last couple of weeks a little bit? It seems like Owen's been getting got to a little bit more. 3 sacks on the day for Temple.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think they have allowed more pressure, but there have also been a lot of plays where the offensive line had great protection, and Owen just sat back there until he got sacked. And that's on Owen. I mean, there was one play, he was in the backfield for 7 whole seconds and took a sack. That just can't happen. I mean, Owen is a veteran quarterback now. He's got, three seasons in this offense now.
Yeah.
You got to know, look, if there's nothing there, you either got to take off and run or you got to throw the ball away. You can't sit back there and take a sack. It's a drive killer. So I would say yes and no to your answer. There was an injury. They did lose one of their best linemen. So you do expect a little bit of a drop off there, and that's to be expected. But I think overall they have certainly played well enough to put this offense in position to move the ball, to go score, and to win games.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think one last thing on the offense, like you know what the struggles are right now, and you still cannot find a safety valve for Owen. Like you know his deficiencies, you know what he's struggling with. Like, just I don't know, man. Maybe it's more complicated than we're making it out to seem. I don't know, but I feel like we've watched enough football to know what that looks like, right? And we're just not seeing it, right, on a consistent basis at least.
Well, and you just want to talk
These guys
about
paid a lot of money to figure it out.
You want to talk about the complete lack of cohesion that this offense is experiencing. You want to talk about the complete lack of preparation that this coaching staff has been responsible for. You look at the 2-minute drill that UTSA goes on to end this game, down 6 points, getting the ball with literally 2 minutes, a minute and 56 seconds left in the football game, with an opportunity to go downfield, score a touchdown, and win the football game. You go 4 and out, turnover on downs. Negative 18 yards with, by the way, what should have been, pretty close to a first down, but it gets negated on a penalty. And then Owen takes this horrible sack on what's already a 4th and 20. Right? You have a third and 5, 3rd and 6 on your hands. And then you get a pass interference on David Amador that sets you back 15 yards for 3rd and 20 and then a 4th and 20. On just a really, really ugly sequence, right? So it's like any tiny little bit of simmer of hope UTSA fan or UTSA player or coach that was watching had for UTSA to come back and win that game was just ripped away in the just most ugliest, pitiful, like blooper reel-esque way of going down. Just a complete derailing of the ship. And there's a microcosm of so many issues that I think we've been watching this team have for a really long time. Horribly ugly way for this team to go out. And then you have 9 penalties total on the day, Jared. Our penalty trend line has been going straight up through the first 5 games of this year. UTSA has gradually committed more and more penalties week by week. Whenever we go back to week 1, UTSA looked to be playing pretty clean football with only 4 penalties. Week 2 and 3, we commit 6 each of those weeks, and then 9 penalties each against Colorado State and now Temple. Coach Traylor's asked about penalties, and he goes Marshawn Lynch, talking about, I don't want to get fined, and then goes into berating the supervisor of referees, Brian Platt, for the American Conference. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? We're going to argue with the referees' calls whenever we've been increasing our penalty count week over week. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. That 2-minute drill was embarrassing. It's horrendous, man. Horrendous day. It was particularly for the offense and the coaching staff. Horrible.
This is the least confident I think I've felt in our 2-minute offense in a very, very long time. I go back. I keep going back to that drive with Frank Harris against Houston when there was like 40 seconds left, right? First game of the season, and without freaking blinking an eye, they go downfield and score and force overtime. Like, that's crazy, right? First game of the season to be that flawless in your freaking 1-minute offense, and to now where it's like just a freaking if Yakety
can't even get a first down.
Be playing right, it's probably appropriate, right? Like negative 18 yards, right? Like just not great, man. And
let's break down that drive, right? The first play, Owen missed a receiver coming open over the middle. He held on to the ball too long, and then he made a rushed, inaccurate throw to Amador on the sideline. Great catch from David to get in bounds, at least get a couple yards, get out of bounds. Then the next play, they try to run a rub route. And I don't know if it was due to how the defense was aligned or what, but you got to know that, like, you at least got to try to sell that there's no contact there. The camera angle wasn't good enough to see exactly what happened. Maybe that's the call that Traylor was really pissed off about. I don't know. But the game's on the line, man. You can't risk getting an offensive pass interference in that scenario, right? So that was very tough to see. Lack of execution. Hated that. And then I can't remember the play between then, but then they take the really bad sack, and DeAndre Marshall just gets beat. Not a whole lot Owen probably could have done in that scenario because the pressure was there so fast. But just a combination of issues and poor execution, and just sad to see.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a completely derailing. Yeah, no, there's an incompletion and an incompletion, right? You have an incompletion to Houston Thomas, incompletion to Robert Henry. You have the penalty that sets you all the way back. But you got to understand, if that penalty is not committed, that PI is not committed, then you're in a 4th and 3 situation. So you go from a 4th and 3, because if that's a completed pass for 3 yards on 3rd and 6, now you're in a 4th and 3. Instead, you have a 14 yards assessed, and you're in a 3rd and 20. It's a 17-yard swing for UTSA on the down and distance. And on a 2-minute drill, of course, that's completely unrecoverable. And they don't. It's horrendous. It's horrendous. What you talking about adding insult to injury?
I think UTSA is great on the scripted stuff, and that's what I think why they were so successful with those first couple of drives. But the moment they get to the end game, man, it's it's just not great.
The chess match is not in our favor.
They're losing it, man. Like they're playing like checkers, and everybody's playing chess. Like it's just they're one step behind.
Yep. Yeah, look at that 3rd and 6 play where they were like on the right hash, and they ran a running back screen to the boundary side. There's just no way logistically that you're gonna have the space to be successful in that play. Like, just bad. You're giving away a drive with that play call. It can't happen. And the stakes are too high. It's the 3rd year with this coordinator. Every coordinator makes mistakes. They make play calls that they want to take back. The pattern has gotten too much. It's too bad.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we beat this Temple loss into the ground a little bit. I think one thing that we didn't point out, UTSA couldn't really push the ball downfield all that much. They had a little bit of success, but they couldn't really, hit those fade routes. And Temple was missing 2 starting safeties in this game, and UTSA still couldn't do it.
Just when you think it can get worse.
Deeply concerning, right? Okay, so before we wrap up Temple, I do want to read off a text we got on the hotline, and I did edit it a bit to try to bridge it. It's a pretty long one. But it says, I've seen a drastic shift as someone who's been on the sidelines. Frank Harris would yell, scream, get in teammates' faces and opposing team faces when needed. Frank showed respect to opponents, but when trash was spoken, Frank would dish it back instantly. Frank would not back down ever. I'm not saying that McCowan needs to copy Frank's style. Leaders can lead in different ways, but the intensity and the fire that was seen under Frank Harris is gone. And I would say that's across the board. It's not, you can point at Owen as a quarterback, but I don't see that same level of passion and fire from UTSA that we've seen in the past and that we see from opponents. Temple's sideline would erupt when they made a play. Not seeing it from UTSA.
Yeah. I think that's the right response to that, Jared. It's not something that we're seeing at this particular position of Frank versus Owen, but it's across the entire team. The fire is gone. We saw a much fiery team under Jeff Traylor in the past, and we don't see that fire. And there's a big difference just of the intangible energy that is coming off of the team that is playing UTSA and UTSA. And it's different. It's a completely different speed, a completely different intensity. We don't have it. It doesn't seem like these guys are playing for each other. It doesn't seem like they believe in that culture. They don't believe in that triangle.
Yeah, whenever they were coming off the field for the 4th quarter, I could tell they weren't going to pull it out because all the guys had the triangle up, but it was like, really half-assed like this. Like, no one was like, put it up. Like, I remember a picture of Josh Cephas throwing up the triangle from one of the games, and like you could tell his whole body was in that triangle.
Fully extended elbows locked, I mean, it was as high up as he could reach, right? Like, Yeah, for sure.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, we'll hit a Cumbia break. We'll come back to preview Rice. Before we do, want to give a big shout out to Reagan Lindsay and Angela Williams. They upgraded from the Insider tier to the Booster tier, perhaps to get access to Hobby's exclusive recruiting update of UTSA's commits and how they've been doing in the senior season. So thank you guys for the continued support. And thank you, as always, to our board of trustees members. That includes Gigi Teak, John Otwell, Gary and Ruben represent the UTSA Burger King Tailgate, Ray Redding, Andy Elizada, Profession Benefit Solutions, Ian McClendon and Seeker LLC, Javon Townsend, President of the DFW chapter of the UTSA Alumni Association, Waterman Construction, UTSA Annual Giving, Brandon Patron, UTSA Keegan Bowser, and Runners United, where you go to www.goutsa.co to support UTSA student athletes. We'll see you guys back after this Cumbia break. All right, hope everyone enjoyed the Cumbia break. We're back to preview the Rice Owls, UTSA's homecoming opponent for the 2025 season. I think fan enthusiasm is pretty muted for this one, unfortunately. But it honestly should be a pretty good game. You know, Rice has really improved. Scott Abell has come in as their head coach. Interesting hire for them. They went got an option guy from Davidson, just completely out of left field hire. But hey, sometimes you got a Zach when everyone else is zicking. Rice is out to a 3-3 start, but at one point in time they were 3-1 on the year, which was their best start since the 2001 season. I think it was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I think, short sample size right now, but I think they nailed the hire, right? I think we always said that they need to do something different to get that program going, and I'll be honest, at the time I didn't think it was a great hire, but it sure has proved me wrong. Honestly, they've been playing better in the wing T option style offense that seems to be doing well. They're playing well on defense as well with John Kay as a defensive coordinator. So it's going to be another dogfight, unfortunately, in the Alamo Dome this weekend.
Evening kickoffs are back in the Alamo Dome with a 6:30 kick on this one. All day tailgates are back in Lot B and Lot C. Very exciting stuff. Whenever I see the evening kickoffs roll out, baby. I'm always a big fan of those. It's homecoming for the Roadrunners. After this lackluster sub 500 2-3 start for the Roadrunners, what are we over under on the homecoming crowd against Rice this Saturday?
I was going to ask this too. I think it's going to be around 20,000.
I was going to say 22.
Well, this is butts and seats, not the announced number, because the announced will be much higher, surely, right?
Oh, wow.
But whatever we actually...
I think 22 announced.
You think 22 announced? I'd expect them to announce a higher one, but 22 probably a realistic number that's actually there. Maybe less. Rice, man.
Scott Abell's offense, he calls it gun choice option. They do not like to use the phrase triple option. They don't want to be seen as an option team. My understanding of the gun choice option is they run the option out of the shotgun with a lot of RPO. So they do have some of the traditional stuff that you see from option teams, midline, read option, veer, stuff like that. But they also run some of that modern RPO kind of stuff as well. So you really never know where they're going to hit you from. Very unique offense. You have to prepare for a lot. The good news for UTSA is, you can tell they still don't really have the kind of guys that they want to build that offense around. Rice is not the kind of school where you can go get 60 guys out the transfer portal at a moment's notice. You got to get accepted into Rice to play for them. And a lot of stuff is not going to transfer credit-wise and all of that. So they really had to work with what they had. So you can see, I think, the grittiness, the physicality, the uniqueness of the offense, but they're still not where they want to be, and it's probably going to take a couple of years for Apple to really get this thing humming along. But you can see the building blocks are there, and I think if you're a Rice fan, you have plenty to be excited about.
Yeah, definitely so. They're rolling. I'm actually pretty surprised with how well they looked in their losses, right? And so I think particularly over the last 2 weeks, their losses to Navy and FAU, both one-possession games, really, really quality, good losses for Rice, if that makes any sense. They're sitting at 500, and they got beat up pretty good against U of H. You got the win over the Raging Cajuns, which was really impressive, I think, in week 1. But for them to lose in the fashion that they did against Navy and FAU, they've looked really, really strong over the last 2 weeks and get into conference play.
They could have very easily been FAU, by the way. I was keeping track of that game, and I thought they were going to take it really, and FAU was just able to pull it out at the end. So, yeah, no, it's not a Rise of old, even though they still beat UTSA last year. But it's a much improved Rice team that's going to come to the Alamo and looking to get another win like Texas State did, right? So they're going to come in motivated. They're going to come in wanting to keep UTSA down, really, because it's been pretty one sided the last, like, gosh, 5+ years, right? So yeah, no, they're going to come in wanting blood per here this weekend.
Well, and they haven't won in the Alamo Dome.
Game is
They haven't won in the Alamo Dome in a really, really long time. And let's not forget the loss to Rice last year was horrendous. A horrendous last second loss that in a game that UTSA should have won really, really handily. And there was a really ugly brawl that took over the entire field in Houston last year. So yeah, dude, this is one that Rice definitely wants. And I don't know. I don't know. They look tougher than they did last season. That's for certain. And I don't know that UTSA looks better than they did last year. So I can't have a lot of confidence in UTSA going up against Rice this week.
They got rid of the intellectual brutality thing and got a lot more intellectual and brutal at the same time. Kind of interesting.
So you're saying that so far. the 12.5 line isn't a good bet?
It's up to 12.5 now?
I think that's what I saw.
Oh, man. It was 11 when I saw it. I don't know. Because, like, on paper, this is a great matchup for UTSA. On paper, right? This is a Rice defense that's pretty good against the pass, not too hot against the run, and an offense that can pretty much only run the ball. I think they're last in all of FBS for passing yards per game. It just, I have it written down here, like 70. Where was it? Where did I have it in my notes? Where's it at? 84 passing yards per game, right? And, you know, from what we've seen from UTSA, They are fantastic about defending against the run, right? They're great, that front seven. They've got a lot of talent up there. Shad Banks has been incredible. Kendrick Blackshire has played well. That defensive line can get penetration. But with the trickery, I feel like Rice could have a bigger game through the air than they have had all season, because UTSA sometimes has been on that play action. They've gotten lost with the motions coming across the field. They're better about that against Temple. So we'll see if that improvement can continue or not. But that's my concern, right? Is like that defense falls asleep in the secondary. We've seen them do it before. And this Chase Jenkins just, has some wide open receivers that, he can just lob it up to for an easy big play.
One who hasn't been able to take advantage of UTSA secondary so far through the 5 games that they've played, right? I mean, everyone's sort of gotten theirs, so to speak. And so that's been ugly. But yeah, I mean, I can see something like that. I think that's the thing about this Rice team is that they're extremely well rounded. They're good, right? They're efficient in the pass game, but they're good with their run options as well. You look at Quentin Jackson, their leading rusher, 481 yards, averaging over 5 yards per carry. And then they use Aaron Turner a lot whenever they're running around the edge on jet sweeps, and he's getting nearly 7 yards per carry on his. And so they're really well-rounded on offense, and then they're not just good offensively. They're also really good on defense, and they've got a pretty menacing front seven that's been extremely solid and consistent, I think, this year. And they've got 2 really good linebackers in Andrew and Ty Morris. So, like, just how across the board Rice is this year is very, very different from Rice teams in the past. They're kind of good everywhere. Not great in any particular one, but good everywhere.
I think it's a typical team that is always going to give you a hard time, no matter who you are, right? If you're South Florida, if you're FAU, right? Like you saw what happened this past weekend. It's just well coached, disciplined. Unfortunately, everything that UTSA is not right now, they're just not as talented, right? So like you said, Jared, in a couple of years when they get that talent that they want and need in there, watch out. But I think UTSA can take advantage of them not having the pieces just yet to run what they want to run on offense, at least. I think on defense, they're doing a pretty good job, especially in the secondary. So Yeah, no, I think it's going to be another dogfight. I don't think that 12 and a half. I just checked again and it's still 12 and a half. So,
It's crazy.
yeah, it's, I don't know where Vegas, right? I guess. I don't know. If you want to make some money, better than fade UTSA, I guess. Um, yeah, no, I think it's going to be another, like Trailer said, one possession game. That does not mean it should be a one possession game. We think, or I think it's going to be a one possession game, unfortunately, and it shouldn't be. But this is where UTSA is at right now, where they have to scrape it out against Rice. So here we are.
Yeah. I mentioned these guys a little bit in the Temple recap, but they've got two really good edge rushers in Michael Daly and Tony Nyanwu. I did check. I do not believe Tony has any relation to Nanya on UTSA's defensive line. Kind of a very interesting coincidence. Um, as good as Nanya and Kenny Ozawalu have been, both of them have like 10 or 11 pressures each. And Yagu has, I think, 21, 31. Oh, man. Oh, hold on. I have it right here.
It's 20. It's in the 20s.
Yeah, 21, 21. So he has more pressures on the quarterback than like both of those guys combined. And then Daly also has similar numbers as well. So that's going to be a big challenge because you're going to have one of them on each side of the line. And with Jalen Garth being down right now, UTSA might have to look to put some extra help on that side of the offensive line to help out DeAndre Marshall. So while the defense has not been too great against the pass, they've been okay statistically, I guess you could say.
Jared, opposing quarterbacks completing under 55% of their pass attempts, 15th in the country. Rice defense.
How about that?
Yeah, so and I think you could probably credit a lot of that to the pass rush, but I think their secondary has to get a little bit of credit on that too, man. I mean, that's a pretty elite stat in pass defense.
They've got a cornerback, Kari Crump, has been really good for them. He's got 6 pass breakups this year, and they have a safety, Marcus Williams, that has 5 pass breakups as well, in addition to his 33 tackles. So I think those two players right there deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah. Again,
just a very well-rounded defense. Honestly, it's in the front seven, the secondary. It's not going to be a fun time for Owen, I don't think, or Robert Henry. So it's going to be another one of those probably similar to Temple where they're going to have to scheme it up, and we'll see if they can do it.
You got to wait for that big Robert Henry run, I think, is what we're going to be banking on, right?
Looking back at that, man, how much did those runs hide?
Yeah.
Like if those runs didn't happen and you just had to work down the field for those points at that point in time, you don't want to do revisionist history, but now that we see what we've seen, it's kind of like,
hey, if Rice shuts the UTSA offense down again, John Kay's got the Texas High School Coaches Association.
There is nothing John Kay would love more than to just completely shut down UTSA's offense.
Got the North Shore pipeline, great Roadrunner defensive coordinator. I'm just saying.
Continuity, Jared.
So,
a few other things to know.
We can't get like really excited about schematically matchup wise, anything that UTSA has done so far. And so how can you be bullish on them doing something different schematically against Rice? But if UTSA were to do something that works, offensively or defensively, what is that? What does that look like to you, Jared?
Well, I think on defense, you got to lean on the penetration from the defensive line, right? Because Rice is going to really commit to establishing the run. They don't throw the ball often. So if you can get them in that 3rd and long situation, they're going to struggle a bit there, right? They're going to have to, rely on gadget plays and stuff like that. Chase Jenkins is a good fit for them at quarterback. He does a lot of what they want from the quarterback position in that offense, but he doesn't have a super live arm, right? So asking him to make difficult throws is where you want to be. And if they can force that 3rd and long, I think they'll be in a decent spot there. On the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be about, forcing that home run in the run game, right? If the pass game is there, that's great. We saw signs of it against Temple. But, given that Rice's secondary has been playing pretty well and they're able to get after the pass rusher, I think you got to find creative ways to get Robert Henry the ball, Will Henderson there as well. I feel like Will Henderson's due for like a really, really big play.
That's coming.
Yeah, he's had a lot of wiggle room. He's made some really nice plays in a tight elevator, if you will. So, he's due for that big one. And I think it's going to be the key for UTSA. I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think both defenses are going to look pretty good. But you got to hope that UTSA's talent wins out and they have a few more explosives in them. One other X factor I'll bring up as well is Rice is pretty injured right now. Looking at their injury report against FAU, they had some really big players missing. One of their top receivers, Landon Ransom Gals, was out. Luke Needham is their top player on the offensive line. He's out. They've been shuffling a lot on that offensive line. The snap count's pretty distributed across like 7 or 8 players, which is probably not what you want. And I know Davian Hook is a safety that they're really high on, and he was out for FAU as well. So we'll see if any of those guys are back against UTSA. But they're definitely pretty banged up right now.
Which, by the way, we didn't even touch on that injury report from UTSA. That gets a C minus from the teacher, Mister. Like that was awful.
I wonder if there's any repercussions for them not being fully transparent on that injury report. It definitely felt like they phoned it in.
Yeah, that was just like that's the most half-assed injury report.
And do we know exactly?
Else,
were we really clear on what the future status is for Robert Henry? Because it sounded like it was just a hydration issue, but then whenever Traylor was asked about it today, it sounded like he said something like, well, "We have him on a plan," which sounds to me like it's not just a hydration problem. That's like a hydration problem would have just been a one-day thing. If they have on some sort of plan, is there injury issues or is it more than just hydration? I don't know. I was kind of confused on what his status looks like going forward.
I don't think Robert Henry is Sincere McCormick. Like he's not a workhorse back. And I think the heavy workload, at least I'm assuming, has gone to him these last couple of weeks. And, I guess the heat, I wasn't in Philadelphia, so I don't know how the field conditions were, but yeah, but and that's another thing, man. You have the staff to handle that, right? Like, yeah, that's another thing. But I think it's that. I think it's more of that. I think they're gonna when he talks about manage it, he means manage his workload to make sure he's a most efficient self. I would think.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, would love for him to be able to get 25 carries like Sincere used to, but he's just never been that kind of back to me. I think he's kind of grown into it a little bit as he's progressed throughout his career, but it's not when he's at his best, right? And we don't want him to be a 3-yard and a cloud of dust kind of running back. So I have no problem with Henderson getting a lot of snaps. He's played well. I
By the way, John Emery, right? He was dressed.
He was dressed and traveled to Philly. So keep an eye on that. We'll see.
Let's hear it, boys. What are our homecoming score
anything
predictions?
Else on Rice or
what are our homecoming score predictions look like, boys?
I think for me, I think it's going to be in the 20s. Nothing crazy. I think UTSA is motivated enough, and it's the Alamo Dome and all that good stuff. It's homecoming. If they cannot get up for this game, then oh man, it is going to be rough, to say the least. So give me UTSA 24, Rice 21 for homecoming.
I'm going 24-20. Same explanation.
Yeah,
just a few more red zone stops from the UTSA defense as the field shortens.
Man, I'm kind of right on par with you guys, to be honest with you. I think the Alamo Dome is the only winning factor in this game for UTSA, and they don't score a lot of points, but they get it done. Rice certainly is going to cover their 11.5 points if any degens are out there listening. But I don't think anybody in the right mind would have UTSA beating anyone in the American Conference by 11 points right now. So yeah,
maybe
put me on board with actually. I had the same numbers that you did, Jared. I had 24-20 UTSA in the Alamo Dome.
It sounds to me like the final score is almost guaranteed to be like 45-44 now after these predictions.
They're going to score so many points. They're going to score.
Oh man, are we going to have a replay of the
Marshall?
I guess like now that fans are challenging each other to fights on social media and like we're falling back into the Frank Wilson era. All that's missing is like UTSA to win 9-6 with all field goals, right? Like we have seen these steps before. Someone like texted into the hotline after the game and they're like, "Hey, like, I got to UTSA 2020. I've only known the trailer era. Like, what do I have to look forward to as a diehard now?" And well, there's one, right? We've got a list of like Frank Wilson era low points. So winning a game with only field goals is maybe a defensive score here and there is one thing to look forward to. But hopefully they get this thing turned around, man. I was going to say this for the Temple recap. That's what's so frustrating to me is because like you can see there's a really good team, right below the surface of what the staff is getting out of these players,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
There are times where like you see a nice drive from the offense and you see a 3 and out from the defense, and you can switch your eyes and say, "Yep, this is a team that could compete to make a run," but then they just do dumb stuff and they're not put in the best positions. And that's why it's so aggravating, because if it was a talent issue, we would see it, we would clock it, we would call it what it is, but that's not what it is. And that's why it's tough to watch.
We've seen the talent differential show itself in flashes, even without, the big plays happening in the frequency that we'd like to see them in. You can still see the talent differential in favor of UTSA here and there. It's absolutely not getting the most
just look
out
back
of
at the
your
A&M
players.
game.
Yeah.
That A&M game, outside of Carver and Concepcion, like UTSA battled. They went toe-to-toe with the number 5 team in the country. They did not look out of place in that game.
It's not the same team anymore. It seems like it's weird.
So strange. Yeah. So strange. Yeah. Well, we are going to have more on Rice with our good friends at The Roost. Matthew Bartlett will be joining us for our bonus episode tomorrow. So Patreons, please be on the lookout for that. Remember, whenever you subscribe to the podcast, you get access to our morning after reactions the day after the game. One extra bonus podcast each week in addition to that reaction episode. And then you get Jared's exclusive film room access. And if you're at the booster tier higher, you also get all of the recruiting goods from Javi and his Birds Up team. We'd like to thank all of our Patreons for making this production possible. Big shout out to big money donors, Ben Tovar, the Bunch family, Zach Espericueta, and the San Antonio Podcast Network, Alejandro Benavidez, Dan Nerdahl, our host of Around the Birdbath, Jacob Cavazos, former board president of the UTSA Alumni Association, John Nally, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers, Sumner McDaniel, Joe Rodriguez, UTSA grad, 1998, Russell Rincon, and Home Field Apparel, where you can use the discount code UTSA Wants Home Field to save 15% on your first order. You can also get new UTSA gear from the Alamo Audible fan shop right here on our website, alamoaudible.com. Thank you very much, and happy homecoming to all the UTSA alum.
And for any Rice fans that are listening, my wife works at Rice and plans tailgates for Rice fans. So if you're looking for a pregame activity, please help her meet her annual metrics by going to the Rice alumni pregame party at Smoke Sky Bar. Great spot. Yeah, they're fancy at Rice,
Okay.
All right, well, thank you guys for listening, and please check back on Patreon for a bonus episode with Matthew. Looking forward to it, and we'll see you guys out there in the lots for a bittersweet homecoming, maybe.